War guy, especially
Oh,
since I'm
God bless
here.
you, sir. Well,
No,
God bless you.
my
Yeah.
I'm
Well, we
I'm
should have to
looking
talk
at.
about that because there's a great group called the Civil War Preservation Trust, which goes around the country rescuing Civil War battlefields.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've been working with them for I'd say at least 30 years.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at moving away from Virginia to Tennessee. So I started looking at apartments there, and it's incredibly affordable.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. But well, you're from Washington, so you know what humidity is. The humidity there is really bad.
They call it
But
the
I will
swamp
say,
for a reason.
sorry.
They call it the swamp for a reason.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it. Uh, I think if you are a Civil War buff, Tennessee is a great place. But of course, the by far heaviest concentration of Civil War battlefields is in Virginia, by
Yeah.
far.
Yep.
You see,
My wife's from Virginia.
you
My
see,
wife is
Ramsey, you
from
just
all
learned
over, but
something new.
when I met her, she lived in
Every time.
Arlington.
Nice.
Hey guys, hey Jeff, hey Minuteman,
Rock
hey,
Breath's always here. I think
hey
Rock Breath is my
Tactical,
favorite
hey
person.
Tactical News Muckle. Yeah, Rock Breath and Eric are huge fans. They help spread the word and the gospel and the love. What's up, Rock Breath? We're starting in 1 minute. Ben, you got your Diet Coke? That's what everybody's more curious about. Ben, you got your Diet Coke?
I have one Diet Coke, one water, one Paregoric, one hot tea, one pretzels, one mint, and I think that's about all I have.
Okay, we're starting in 1 minute.
Okay, what else do you think I should have? Should I have a steak?
You gonna
Sure.
record? Are you recording, Judah?
Yes.
Here's Lewis.
I don't see it. There we go.
Rabbi,
Oh,
Lewis is sitting up. You guys ready?
We're ready.
Okay. I want to welcome everybody back to the world according to Ben Stein. I'm Judah Friedman, your moderator. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first time, please subscribe to the YouTube channel at The World According to Ben Stein. Like us at Facebook at The World According to Ben Stein. And follow Ben on Parler at Ben Stein. Tell your friends, tell your loved ones, tell your enemies. Just tell them. I want to say hello, of course, to Ben Boychuk from American Greatness, managing editor. Hello, Ben.
happy to be back. Thanks, Judah.
And of course, our resident historian, Nixon Trivia King, and a person that's sitting upright tonight, Louis Esoteric Fine.
Oh my gosh, he is sitting us, and behind him, over his left shoulder, is what looks to be a ceiling fan.
yes, I am. I'm channeling my inner Teddy Pendergrast.
And a joke that most people don't get. And
I get it, but it's again, there has to be some limit, Lewis. I mean, really.
And of course, let's welcome Remzo Martinez, podcaster extraordinaire and Parler's director of outreach. Howdy, Remzo.
The dark winter is coming, Judah, but I am doing fine. Thanks for having me back.
And we'll get to, because a lot of people are having Parler issues that are great issues, and I'll let you expand.
I was in such a good mood.
What do you mean? When were you in such a great mood?
And of course, joining us tonight is America's humble servant, author, economist, Emmy Award winner, Benjamin Jeremy Stein.
God bless you.
And tonight we are going to talk about not giving up, and you got to fight for your right, for the right party and our party, and that never to give up. And I just had to bring up something before the show, guys, because it really disturbed me. My mother, a 72-year-old Jewish lady that lives in Bergen County, obviously I'm not going to give the address, saw the comments by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez about, online posts and tagging Trump supporters and Trump sycophants. So basically AOC, who is
could you tell us what that is? Because when you first told me about this, Judah, I thought at first you were pulling my leg, and to see that it really is a true thing is so shocking. I can hardly catch my breath.
So basically AOC wants to get a database of all Trump supporters, and and punish us, fine us, imprison us, I would imagine.
Wait a second. With respect, I respect you greatly. You showed me one about her wanting to archive data about who are Trump supporters. I didn't see anything there about imprisoning us.
Well, that is an eventuality, as rabid as the left has become. That's where they could. That's where it's a hop, skip, and a jump from putting a badge on your sleeve, and all of a sudden Uden becomes Trump supporter, or people from Venezuela that have escaped, or look at what's going on in Armenia. People have to be frightened right now about what the left is doing, and I could handle myself, but I hate the fact that it frightens my mother and it frightens many people of what is going on in the world, in America. And Ben, I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime.
It's unbelievable what's happened. And I think a fellow I know named Judah Meyer Friedman put it to me as well as anyone has, which is there's such a thing as being stabbed in the back. But the other side in this election has walked up and stabbed the Constitution, not just us, but the Constitution right in the chest with a shiv. And I am very upset about it. I don't see them registering Trump supporters and imprisoning them, but I could well imagine not the government doing it, but some private entity doing it. And we have private entities that have the capacity to do it now. And I could see them doing it. And then those numbers bleeding into some kind of publicly held database held by the government. And then there being some law about sedition and people being maybe first warned, maybe not warned, and then punished in some way for doing it. It's a scary thought, but she's always been, in my opinion, I'm not a professionally trained medical man. She has always been a very, very sick person. That's just my opinion. I'm not a doctor, and continues to be a very sick person. And this idea is just terrifying. It's terrifying. She's obviously not well,
and potentially could be the future Speaker of the House. And on that note,
wow.
Why not? And on that note, Reverend Ben Wojcik, share some wisdom with us. Share the gospel with us.
Well, before I do that, I wanted to point out, it's not just AOC. There is a Google document. It's public. It's pretty easy to find. Members of Pete Buttigieg's campaign are involved with creating this document. There are lots of people in politics involved in putting together this document, which started with, it has sections for White House staffers and major donors, but very quickly it's evolved into, if you are a prominent public person, you didn't work for the administration, but you've opined in favor of the Trump administration, you get to go on the list too. And not just her, but the contemptible Jennifer Rubin of the Washington Post has come out.
You stole my thunder.
Oh,
wait. Who is compiling this list, please, sir?
Well, the way, basically the timeline of it was AOC tweeted that, is anybody creating some kind of archive where we can know who these Trump supporters are and hold them to account for what they've done to the country?
Let's just change Trump supporter for right now to Jews, Venezuelans. Let's just change it because,
I don't understand what Venezuelans have to do with any of this.
People that have escaped purgatory and hell.
Yeah.
And been enslaved for their thoughts and enslaved because of who they are.
You mean recent refugees.
But Ben, I'll sorry to interrupt you.
Well, so my thought on that is add me to the list. Put me on that damn list. Come and get me if you dare.
Yeah.
We were talking last night about, and I want to reiterate this again tonight because we were worried, I think, a little bit last night that the Trump campaign and the Republicans, the Trump campaign may not be doing enough, may not have enough lawyers on the ground. And from what I've seen today, they may not have enough lawyers on the ground, but the lawyers that they have on the ground seem to be on top of things. So I'm somewhat more optimistic than I was yesterday. But also, regardless of how this goes, again, with their lists and their threats and their vows of retribution for wrongthink, and their vows to, the Philip Kennicott of the Washington Post last week described Trumpism as a disease.
You're kidding.
No, yeah.
May I ask you a question? I was myself a columnist for the Washington Post a very, very, very long time ago. That name does not ring a bell. Who is he, please?
Pulitzer Prize winning art and architecture columnist. So it wasn't even a regular opinion column. It actually appeared in the entertainment section.
Wow. Scary.
They give out Pulitzers for that?
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, let's give Ben Boychik.
Okay, please continue, Ben.
So the idea, there's this idea, first of all, so much for magnanimity in victory, assuming it is a victory, because I'm not willing to concede anything. But, they give them just a little bit of power, or the idea that they've got it. And the first thing they go for is revenge.
Yeah, very scary. I couldn't agree more. Very, very scary stuff indeed. Very scary.
So I would just simply say, let them try, and let's see what happens. Because, there are 71 million Trump voters in this country, and you're not going to get them all. And I think at some point, a lot of people would begin to say, that's really not right.
I couldn't agree more. This is a very, very scary show opening that we're having.
It's reality, though, Ben. It's a terrifying reality of what's going on online. And I'll let Lewis jump in because I know he's extremely passionate about this.
Let me first say, now that I know that Judah's mother lives in Bergen County, as does my mother, a meeting will be arranged. Esther, Miriam, whatever your name is, Sybil's coming for you.
Took a dark turn fast.
Let me make a quote here. Not a quote. Let me read a quote. We have to burn down the Republican Party.
Oh my God.
We have to level them because if there are survivors,
oh my God,
they will do this again. Jennifer Rubin.
Who is that? I've never heard of her.
She used to claim to be a conservative writer who writes for the Washington Post.
I've never heard
And she got her start at a magazine whose managing editor, I'm not going to name the magazine, but whose managing editor is very fond of movie candy. You can figure out the rest on your own.
Is very fond of what?
Editor-in-chief.
Yes, he's very fond of movie candy, soft drinks, anything that Michael Bloomberg is against, he's for in terms of nutrition. Let me say another thing about Jennifer Rubin. This is
Are you sure this is a real person and you're not just
Yes, Jennifer Rubin, Rubin, and was
that probably means she is not Jewish.
No, she is.
I'm kidding.
I know but if you look at her, you might say, and this is just between us, Sephardic. It shocks me that she has a degree from the same university that my former girlfriend attended and graduated.
What's that?
Berkeley. When I was dating Joan Didion, we used to talk about Berkeley because she had been rejected from Stanford, and she was upset about that, and she went to Berkeley when there was a much more intense rivalry between the two schools, and Stanford has surpassed it, at least in terms of money and research. But Berkeley is a fine university. To think that this woman has a degree from the same school that produced not only Miss Didion, but the Jewish Didion who passed away in 2019, Kate Braverman. What a writer. What a writer. I wrote to her once.
Somebody that we all don't know, but Ben, getting back to
read her.
Lewis's point is these aren't little writers. These aren't small people. These are people in positions of power. AOC is in a huge position of power.
Not to me.
Well, I understand that, not to you, but yes, to you, because one day when she is the Speaker of the House, if that is a possibility, that affects us all. And I would be remiss if we don't, I know it's a frightening thought, And that's the point of the topic tonight of how do we fight back against this? Because there are ways. There still are chances. We're not giving up this presidency just yet. The left has not won this cabal of insanity. And I'll let Remzo get in because I know Remzo had an interesting weekend.
Many people right now across the internet have finally figured out that the best thing to do about big tech is to divest your time and your money. And I'll address what you mentioned at the beginning of the show. Why is Parler acting up? It's because, and this is a conservative estimate, since this morning, we've had 50,000 new accounts per hour.
Wow.
And we have a record-breaking, not just week, day. Because people are now figuring it out. And with that, our staff of 30 are all up right now, burning the midnight oil to make sure that the servers are up to speed, to make sure that our data is scaling, to make sure that everyone can take advantage of the platform and connect with others and get their stuff out there. This is a giant growth spurt we're having, and people have been patient. And I want to go ahead and, if I can, just real fast, I actually have a note from one of our engineers. The system's infrastructure is designed to scale extremely rapidly in most directions. However, there's a couple of activities that everyone's been using that are less used in general, so we didn't have quite as many optimizations around them. We've always kept a buffer for spike loads, and we have even more so through the election, but the post-election traffic increases have been absolutely massive. Externally, we've identified several problematic routes and queries in our server team, and they're optimizing it now. As we planned on scaling the servers to fix these issues, we are. These solutions aren't perfect, but we're burning through the midnight oil to make it work. And for everyone that wants to learn everything about Parler, how it works, we're incredibly transparent with our engineer, support, and develop team. You can go ahead and follow Alexander Blair at Blair, Ablair. He's the person that, he's the chief cook and bottle washer behind everything that makes Parler actually happen. He's a great resource. And basically, we're trying to make everyone happy. It's a big house, and we're adding wings and corridors and basements and sub-basements to it. It's incredible the amount of people we're seeing come over right now. I mean, Ben, your account has shot up like 30,000 people in a day.
I am very, very grateful indeed. Thank you very much. I'm just so scared about what you guys are talking about this vicious anger of these left-wingers and this person who I still think you must be making up, Jennifer Rubin.
No. Ben, he's not.
And she has a law degree. Ben, you have a law degree. Would you ever hear? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Ben, I promise you, he's not. He's far from making her up. Okay, so just so everybody understands this, Ben, there are a cabal of never Trumpers, or there are people that are trying to save their ass right now by saying they're telling Trump to resign, or to not to resign, but to accept the loss. They're telling it. Everybody is scurrying right now, so when they have a job, and that they're not doxxed. Everybody, but people like Jennifer Rubin, who used to be supposedly a conservative writer, just like George Will and all those guys and all those people.
Well, you're surely not comparing a total nobody named Jennifer Rubin with George Will.
Well, she's as intelligent apparently as George Will's eldest child.
And on that note, Ben Boychuk, why don't you tell people how you can find us?
Well, you can obviously, once Parler gets its issues worked out, which I hope
they're working on it.
It's great. No, I love it. It's a great problem to have. It reminds me of the early days of American greatness when we would get
Ben,
these traffic
how
spikes
many? I'm sorry to break format, Ben. You had one parlay that got 1 million impressions on Saturday.
I know, it was great.
Incredible. That is
we are living in the strangest timeline.
Yeah,
that is thanks to Judah Friedman. Thank you, Judah.
This has just been. I love.
Pedro. My God, Remzo, you can leave now. I'm sorry.
Anyways,
I'm sorry. They all look the same.
Wait. So let me do the bit. Follow us on Parler at Ben Stein, and we also have an account that's not as well followed. So let's boost those numbers a little bit at The World According to Ben Stein. Please like us on Facebook. For as long as that's possible at The World According to Ben Stein. And if you're watching this for the first time, please subscribe on YouTube at The World According to Ben Stein.
And I want to welcome everybody back to the world according to Ben Stein. The topic of tonight really is that we could still win this. We're not giving up. There are avenues to fight this. I didn't mean to scare you, Ben Stein. I know these are frightening things, but just like you're frightened, the reason I brought it up was because I got a call from my mother who is very scared when she sees these comments by 80% of her family was slaughtered, who sees comments that were taking names,
Right. I hardly know what to say. It's startling.
And if you remember, just so everybody knows, when Eichmann was caught and they said to him, "Why did you do it?" Or whatever, his reasoning was, it was against the law to be a Jew. And it's and like you said, it's not that far of a hop, skip, and a jump to say it's against the law to be a Trump fan. It's against the law to be a Republican. When you control big media, when you control universities, when you control all forms of media, it is not. And that's what we're fighting back. And Ben Boychuk, I know you wanted to jump in on something.
Oh, no, I mean, I've got plenty to say. I do agree with you. I mean, I think we need to, I think we need to cultivate, as many alternatives as possible that are free from the influence of big tech. I think we need to get off of, like us on Facebook, but maybe get off Facebook. Maybe that would be better. Maybe get off Twitter, because those censorious bastards can't be trusted, and maybe find and support other media outlets and support alternative media publications like American Greatness and
or the American Spectator
and just find ways. As I was saying, the point I was making last night, I want to reiterate again for anybody who wasn't watching last night or maybe hasn't seen the video yet, which is politics is about action. Politics is not a spectator sport. And that, it's often the case for conservative folks that, who have real jobs and who have real families and who have real lives, that actually the work of politics is somewhat daunting because it requires so much time and energy. And this is something that the left has always been very good at, maybe much better than we are, at organizing people, at getting out votes, getting out the vote, and getting elected to things like, for all of us who are in California where we have term limits, the Democrats here understood very quickly that you needed to build a strong team of potential elected officials. And so what did they do? They spent time and energy getting people on local water boards, getting them on school boards, getting them elected to city councils, small city councils. And lo and behold, before too long, those people are running for state assembly, state senate, and eventually statewide office. And they've been very, very good at that. And Republicans here have not, which is why Republicans are in a rump minority and have very low voter registration here and are not much of a force other than to accommodate themselves to the whims and caprices of the Democratic supermajority. And so we don't want the United States to look like California. For God's sake, don't do what we do. Instead, get organized, get your act together and fight back.
Hey, you couldn't have said it better. And, Lewis, I know Ben, again, he wasn't joking about that person, but Lewis, go ahead.
So first about George Will, I am a big fan. I'm sure if he were to read or hear my terrible, evil, egregiously misdirected joke, he would say it was egregious, evil, and misdirected. And I apologize for not being funny enough. My George Will impersonation, by the way. Samuel Adams said, "The wheat of democracy is chaff." And that's what we have in America, is a Lincolnian, Madisonian, Monroe doctrine of baseball. Ben Stein, you're an officer of the court. My question to you is this. Jennifer Rubin has a law degree, supposedly.
As a law,
not honorary, from Berkeley, Bolt Hall.
Mm-hmm.
What member of the bar would issue a threat, tacit or otherwise, of that sort?
Mentally ill. It's just an opinion. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychoanalyst or psychologist. It's just a humble opinion. But someone who says something as extreme as that, I think in a country like the United States of America, has to be suffering from some kind of mental illness. That's just an opinion. I may be totally wrong, but
You were a doctor in the mask.
How old a
Doesn't
woman
that
is
count?
she? I'm sorry?
You were a doctor in the mask. Doesn't that count?
I know that was one of my best roles. It was really great.
My daughter can't wait to see it. She wanted me to ask you.
It's
She
really
said,
good.
I know,
Really
yeah, I know he's in Ghostbusters too, but does he
No,
like
no,
the first
I've
one?
been in over 30 movies.
No, I know
may
that. I know that.
may I respectfully
Sure.
suggest, that we find out if, in fact, this Jennifer Rubin is a real person, because it sounds like
She's real.
She's what?
She's real. You asked how old she is. My guess is she's undergoing the change.
Ben, I promise.
Okay.
Ben,
Okay.
I promise.
You said, Judah, I trust you. If you know, I know Lewis likes to play jokes.
But Ben, I
trust
promise you, Jennifer.
I wish she was a joke.
Jennifer, I promise you, Jennifer Rubin is real, and all the
Wow.
people that we're talking about are real. And
Wow.
getting back to what Ben Boychuk was referring to before was basically it's a setup of like AOC tweeted or sent the message. Ben Boychuk is showing you a picture of her.
I can't see it very well.
Okay, well, either way, she exists. We're not joking around.
Okay.
Her eyes were glowing red.
Getting back to it, Ben, the Republicans of past generations have taken it on the chin and they've taken it laying down. This is a new era that we actually can fight back because we have somebody like Trump who hasn't betrayed his supporters. And it's time for Republicans or Trumpicans or whatever you want to call us to say, we're not going to let you ruin our lives.
I don't know what to say to that. The idea, I mean, the extremism that you're talking about is so horrific. I just don't know what to say. I mean, I'm an old man. We have a lot of houses that we can't afford anymore. We have a lot of houses that we can go hide in. So that's the thought that comes to my mind is I'll take people who are very dear to me and we'll go hide out in one of our many houses. But gosh, this thing is terrifying. But we're fighting back right now by saying people who say things like that are not serious people. They're mentally ill people. They're seriously ill people. That's that. They're seriously ill people. But I will say something else, if I may. I am hoping that the Supreme Court of the United States eventually hears this case about the massive voter fraud and orders massive recounts. I'm hoping that happens very, very quickly. I think this new woman on the Supreme Court has more balls than all the men on the court put together. So I'm hoping that happens. If it does, great. And then I think we've won the election because I am convinced that Trump won the popular vote and won the vote in all the battleground states. A very, very, very smart friend of mine today at lunch said, there's something going on. Antifa is quiet. Black Lives Matter is quiet. They knew that the fix was in. Biden didn't feel he had to leave his basement because he knew the fix was in and he couldn't lose. The people who made the fake coding machines that miscoded in certain upper Midwest states, they were in all the battleground states miscoding. The fix was in from day one. I think Judah was the first person who said that, and it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But we can fight that. There are such things as courts. We've discussed this many times, you and I, Judah. Where is Mr. Barr? Where the hell is he? We've got to get some lawyers in there. It is a crime that Mr. Trump and his men and women did not have an army of lawyers ready to go into every county of every battleground state. That is incredible incompetence. That should have happened. It should have had an army of poll watchers. That is incredible incompetence. That should have happened. Let's not waste one more day, Mr. Trump and his friends and followers. Let's get an army of lawyers in there immediately. We don't need the paratroops We need lawyers to file suits everywhere. Let's do it right away. But if that doesn't work, then let's fight against the Democrats in Congress. If you look at it a certain way, the conservatives did fine, except for the cheating at the top of the ticket. We added to the Republicans in the House. I'm told today, I could be wrong, that we added substantially in state legislatures, which is going to help a lot in the redistricting struggles. In 2 years, if Trump is not president, I hope he is, but if he isn't, there's going to be a gigantic red tsunami because people are going to say, this guy Biden was a big liar. He couldn't do anything right. Neither could anybody in his party. And we're going to have a red tsunami. Just today, I saw what is Mr. Biden's big plan for fighting COVID. It's to wear masks. If that's what the scope of his insight is and his sophistication, we're going to roll over them in the next 2 years. Let's hope it happens, but let's hope Trump wins. But if he doesn't, which I hope he does, fingers crossed. But I think the Democrats are going to be pulverized next time around.
From your mouth to God's ears, let's pray they're pulverized next time and Trump's in. And
yes, absolutely.
And let's tell people how they could help, obviously with the lawsuits, but also donate money, donate time. When you get those emails from the Trump campaign saying defend, we need to send whatever money we can in to help defend the president because he's defended us. And I got to say, he's one of the first Republicans I could remember in a while that stood up for the people that supported him.
Absolutely. And he stood up for the party. Yeah. I mean, Dwight Eisenhower was a great president. I loved him, did incredible things, but he really did not want to dirty his hands dealing with the Republican Party. Dick Nixon did, but the Republican Party abandoned him and did not do a thing for him during Watergate. So let's have a unification between the top of the ticket and the middle of the ticket from now on.
And on that note, if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. We're talking about tonight fighting for our right to keep our party. Ben Boychuk, will you please tell us where people could find us?
Well, thanks. If you're watching the live stream, thank you for doing that. If you're a first-time viewer, thank you and welcome. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell up in the corner. If you happen to still be on Facebook, but people are fleeing there in droves, but if you're sticking around, like us on Facebook at The World According to Ben Stein. And of course, you should be on Parler. Follow us at Ben Stein or at The World According to Ben Stein.
And people are asking where they can, welcome back to The World According to Ben Stein. People are asking where they could donate to. It's called the Official Election Defense Fund. I'm surprised you guys haven't had your email inundated with emails. But I have been. And donate whatever you can, all the money in the world, anything is needed. And of course, welcome everybody back. Remzo, you've been a little quiet. I know you had a long weekend. Are we allowed to say what you were doing, or is that?
I was incredibly busy, and I was away for work, and I got back late today, and I've just been trying to catch up with everything, and it's a good problem to have. Like, we've got many people reaching out, media inquiries, people who want to invest, people that will want to bring their friends over, people that want to learn more about the platform. I mean, I said this, I think, 3-4 episodes ago. Like, you are the power. What we're dealing with right now, I mean, what we're seeing with President Trump right now, this is an information battle, and it's a legal battle. But there's a giant war right now. Because what we have is we have people in big tech, we have people for the mainstream media who are out there trying to go ahead and take you out. And they weren't just censoring the president on Tuesday night and throughout the week. Many pundits, many people center right, even leftist reporters who, there are a few that I really like and actually do their job. They were getting tweets taken down. They were getting their accounts restricted. They were having stuff pulled. They were getting thousands of bots, fake accounts that are just automated to attack people coming after them. And then people lost groups on Facebook. Thousands of Trump groups on Facebook were just removed without warning. Stop the Steal groups were just removed without warning. And Facebook won't stop but reminding you, oh, look who happens to be the projected president. This is projection. They've been saying they were going to do this for months. Big Tech said they would get involved. Big Tech said that they would be the final arbiters of truth, and the media just backs them up. It's a vicious cycle. And yeah.
It's a fascinating situation. I haven't seen much about it in the news, surprise, surprise, but Big Tech and the government have essentially merged. The left-wing parts of the swamp have merged to create one superstate, public-private superstate, to suppress dissent. And that's a very, very bad situation. I'm an old man. I won't live to see the full fruition of it. But for my son, for my granddaughter, it is scary indeed. It's very scary.
And just so people know, people are asking why you have to give information when you donate. It's because it's so people can't donate a certain amount of money. It's for legality that they have to know certain.
That's
parts
a restatement of the question.
Yeah, just give. All I had to do was give my name, what I do for a living, and that type of stuff. It was a few simple questions, and then I clicked donate. And what Remzo just brought up, Ben Boychuk, is sort of you're experiencing it right now. You're in certain groups that might have been banned or might not have been banned. And I want Ben Stein to understand this is not a joke. This is groups of Facebook of 300,000 people, Ben, being.
I'm sorry. Say that again. What? Say that again.
Private groups on Facebook with over 300,000 Trump supporters have been shut down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
I belong to some smaller groups, and they've essentially, what I understand is that Facebook has said for most of these groups that all posts, for example, need to have administrative approval. And so what they've done is they've kind of figured out ways to restrict the ease with which you can share information in certain groups. And so
what is administrative approval of what?
Well, so like there are people who are responsible for running these pages on Facebook. And so anytime now normally the way it would work is if you're a member of a group and you have, say, an article you want to share, you could just share it. Now it requires somebody, a gatekeeper of some kind, to approve.
Terrible stuff.
It is terrible. And so what's happening is,
I can't believe this is happening. I think we should all move to Sandpoint, Idaho, where
don't all move to Sandpoint, Idaho.
I know. Everybody hates when you say that, by the way.
I happen to have some property there, and I love it there, and I strongly recommend we all move there.
I want to move to Sandpoint, Idaho. I don't want the whole world, and I certainly don't want half of California to move.
Oh, look who's being greedy now.
Exactly.
Who's being greedy now.
Yes, this is entirely hypocritical of me. Yes, and find someplace nice, just not Sandpoint.
Sandpoint is incredibly nice.
I know.
But Ben, just to put it in perspective, last night's episode, you brought up how one director, more than one producer, wouldn't allow you. The deal was if you wanted to sell your script, you had to take your name off it.
Oh, yeah. I had to take my name off it. Exactly. I had to take my name off the whole project. It was for a movie, a mini series called America with a K about
Robert
a
Urich
takeover of America.
And also Murder in Mississippi.
Murder in Mississippi. Actually, I think they gave me credit for from an article by or something like that. But I've had lots of stories like this. Hollywood is a very difficult place in terms of human decency. But
But Ben, my point is, take those one people and multiply them now times 50 million.
Oh, yeah.
With every big tech company behind them. And that's what people are.
You're totally right. You're totally right. It's a very scary situation.
Yes,
well, one thing I'd also like to mention, go on Google right now. Like, this is what's really terrifying. Google election 2020 voter fraud. And every article you'll see for like at least the first 10 pages are, this is debunked. This is fake. What do the fact checkers say? Then you go to bing.com or safesearch.com or DuckDuckGo, and you actually have a mix of articles from the left and the right. Now Google is acting like an editorial because they're not curating the stuff that people are actually doing. I mean, Ben Boychuk is in publishing. He understands how traffic and SEO works. Google used to just be a place where you can find the best stuff. Now it's where you find the stuff that they want you to look at.
But this is, as I keep saying, this is something that Jefferson and Madison did not foresee. I think it's extremely important that we have a court that says that some measure of the free speech protections of the Constitution apply to the internet.
So there's going to have to be another test case. And I want to offer, and I'm being serious, a Jeffersonian take on this. We have a problem when you have a government people don't trust and media people don't believe. And I understand the need for anonymous sources, especially in cases in which a person's physical safety or life could be in jeopardy. But during Watergate, we saw the proliferation of so-called anonymous sources. And as of this evening, when reading CNN, I read a story attributed entirely to anonymous sources saying that both Melania Trump and Jared Kushner had advised President Trump to accept the results of the election, concede to Joe Biden, and have the quote unquote peaceful transfer of power. What happens when an editor's faith, and it is faith, in a story, or what happens when an editor's faith in an anonymous source is predicated on his or her faith in a reporter, and in turn, readers have to have faith in the reporter, and that reporter may not be familiar to the public or may not have established the necessary trust when your former neighbor, Carl Bernstein, and Bob Woodward,
next door neighbor.
They had the institutional prestige of the Washington Post, the brand name behind them, whether they were accurate or not. But what happens when you read a story or you see a headline, as I did before the show began, that said Joe Biden is the projected winner? Yesterday, he was the winner. And you see these nuances in language, but they're important nuances in language, because one can be the projected winner versus the declared by whom winner. And the numbers also change outlet to outlet. Trump has a certain number of electoral votes with one outlet, which may or may not be less than what you see in another outlet, but they're all quote unquote mainstream, and you can't get any agreement about what the number is, except that Joe Biden is the winner.
The whole tone of this conversation is very upsetting to me, and I'd like for everybody watching this, however many there are, to do everything you can to communicate your discontent to whatever local media or national media outlets still will allow you to do it. B, tell your children what's going on so that when they grow up, they will understand the America that the left is trying to steal from them. C, stock up on lots of food. And 4, move to North Idaho.
And I'm sure that people of North Idaho want everybody moving there.
No, they do want it. There are a lot of real estate brokers there.
I found a place that it came up for government auction. I mean, there was some bloodshed, but I put mezuzahs up, and it is in fact Zionist occupied territory now.
This is a good deal.
Yeah, it's the old Weaver place up on the ridge.
I know that place. Place. It is not Zionist occupied.
Well, it is now. I own it now. I bought it.
But Ben, Lewis needed you to laugh a little bit and not be so scared.
And could you hold up, Ben Stein, your Stein that you got from Stephen Ambrose that you were drinking tea from? Because I want one of those.
Yes.
Show it to everybody.
You're great.
Stephen,
You're great.
I love it.
And Ben, somebody last night, you brought up a book that you read every night before you go to bed, and somebody had asked the question. You mentioned it last night. It was in reference to with Warren Buffett, and we didn't hear what book it was that you read.
I think I don't think I said I read it every night, but the book is the Statistical Abstract of the United States, and it is a big, thick book of statistics. Unfortunately, either I'm getting older, which is impossible, or they're making the type quite small, so it's getting to be more difficult every day for me to read it. But that's a very, very useful book, The Statistical Abstract of the United States. Very, very useful book.
And getting back to it, Lewis brought up the greatest point a few days ago or yesterday, that there has not been I haven't watched the news, to be honest, that much, but I haven't seen mathematicians or statisticians being interviewed by any major news media organization.
Right.
And I find it amazing. It's like just an amazing thing that you wouldn't have one of them on. Wouldn't you be?
But what is trending is the Ben Boychuk. What's the name of the quote unquote law regarding the statistics of this election?
Why are you putting me on the spot?
Brenner's law, Biden's law, Broder's law. There's a law that was coined by a statistician about anomalies of this sort, purported anomalies of this sort, and it explains why the math is questionable at a minimum. And
Benford.
Somebody in the
Benford's law.
Benford's law. There you go. I was close. Biden's law, Broder's law, David Brenner's law. God
rest his soul, a great comedian.
And that is trending in social media, people pointing that out. And they've changed a lot of people I've seen have changed their avatars to include that graph that illustrates the point, the divergence between red and blue, and why mathematically this is inexplicable.
We can, I think among us five, we can agree, and we're just anecdote. We're not data. Just five of us. We're just anecdote, not data. It couldn't have happened. It could not have happened as the mainstream media is reporting it. It could not have happened as Mr. Biden and Mrs. Harris are claiming it happened. It could not have happened. So something happened that was not at all kosher. We've got to get to the bottom of it. I'm praying that my friend Lindsey Graham will follow through this time and have serious hearings. I'm praying that Mr. Barr grows a pair of balls and he goes after it. But will they? I don't know at all. But we have got to start fighting back. And as I say, if we cannot keep Mr. Trump in office, I pray we can. We've got to make sure that we do everything we can to get whatever we believe to be the right program for America through in the next 2 years, and also keep AOC and her wicked ilk from getting their program through. That's very important. I like to put gasoline in my car. I don't want to be stuck at home all day. I don't want AOC cutting off my gasoline.
And if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. Ben Boychuk, if you could please tell people how to find us.
Follow us on Parler at Ben Stein, or at The World According to Ben Stein. Like us on Facebook at The World According to Ben Stein, and subscribe to the YouTube channel at The World According to Ben Stein.
I mean, think about what's at stake here. I mean, AOC and Mr. Biden and Mrs. Harris literally want to take apart this country brick by brick, pipe by pipe, and build a new socialist super state that will deprive us of what was our freedom and what we all grew up with and loved and what this country was. They want to do this in the name of a completely phony phenomenon called systemic racism, which now Mr. Biden has somehow decided to call systematic racism. They want to do it in the name of a completely phony environmentalism. Obviously, there are some environmental changes going on. Are they the fault of man? Are they the fault of U.S. man, China man? What are they the fault of? We don't know. But in the name of all kinds of chimera, they want to take away our freedom. It's been going on for a long time now. COVID takes away our freedom. The environment takes away our freedom. Too many things are taking away our freedom. Our freedom is the bedrock of the nation. The nation is not built on having a certain level of particulates in the air. It's built on freedom.
By the way, kudos. CHIMERA. That, my friend, is an SAT word.
Is what?
An SAT word.
Oh, very good. Well, I did real well on the SAT.
I know you did. I saw it in Time Magazine. Listen, no, it was in there. Amy Tan was she was on the low end, very, bell curve and all that stuff. But
who was in there?
Amy Tan, she was on the lower end. You
Is she
do
a
about
real
500.
person?
Yeah, the Joy Luck Club.
Okay.
You know what? When they get a Spanish translation, I'm going to get you a copy of that.
Let's get back to
I got a
Lewis.
question.
Lewis.
I got a question here. It's this. Either we have a pandemic or we don't. And this gets back to a government we trust or we don't trust. How is it that we have Democratic politicians who tell us that we need to maintain social distancing, we need to wear masks? I understand that. I respect that. I believe there is a pandemic, but is this the only pandemic that discriminates favorably when Democrats rally, but unfavorably and afflicts Republicans when they gather on the South Lawn of the White House for the Republican National Convention, or when Donald Trump as president holds rallies, but when Kamala Harris and Joe Biden come out on a Saturday evening in Delaware to celebrate their purported victory, and people are not wearing masks by and large or social distancing, the virus takes a vacation.
This is a very compliant virus.
And then this is the problem. When you create a narrative, it's one thing to offer commentary and analysis and state it as such. When you manufacture consent, thank you very much, Mr. Noam Chomsky, when you create a narrative without evidence or with anonymous sources, and you presume, you have the arrogance to presume that people will believe this because they always have. How can you have a country that is united?
I like the fact that Ben Stein and Louis Fine are davening as we speak.
Yes.
Anyway,
I make my own tallis.
And the
look,
people
we have an obvious situation here. We have a dictatorship of the beautiful people, and they work through BLM and Antifa and so forth to terrify their opponents, and they're trying to silence people who don't agree with them. I don't like it. It's terrifying. I don't like it at all, and I fight against it. I'm writing and posting along with the help of the great Judah all day long, and we're fight. We'll keep on fighting. And by the way, I might add, I went to Montgomery Blair High School class of 62, still friends with a number of my classmates. We're all Republicans. All of us are Republicans. And we are fighting for the America that was the great America of 1962. And that was a great America.
October was the best month of that year.
Really? What happened then?
Cuban Missile Crisis.
What happened?
Cuban Missile Crisis.
Ooh, that was scary.
I know.
Leave it up to
the
Lewis.
missiles of October.
That was very scary.
Leave it up to Lewis to add levity. Remzo,
I have a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, please go for it.
This can go for anybody.
No, let it go for Ben.
Okay, Ben. What do you think would have happened during the 2000 election if big tech and the media were acting the way they are right now? Do you think that?
I don't think you're asking a very good question. I don't think it would have even gotten as far as the courts, and Al Gore would have been elected president. He's a sorry, Gesundheit. He's a sorry son of a bitch, and I'm very glad he didn't get elected. No, actually, I shouldn't say that. He's a perfectly nice guy, but no, he's I've never seen an alliance like big tech and the left in the media and the billionaires in Hollywood and on Wall Street. They are just crushing anybody who dares to stand up to them. And that is 71 million plus Americans who cast their ballots on Tuesday or before. Those people have just been swept aside like so much trash by the media powers and their pals on Wall Street and in Hollywood. They've just been obliterated.
Yep, Ben Boychuk.
Well, they're trying to obliterate them, right? I mean, and that was really what the election was about. I mean, it seems to me that anybody who thinks that we're going back to the 2015, 2016 political status quo because, in the event that Biden and Harris squeak through and get into office, they're out of their minds. We're beyond that. I mean, there's a lot of damage, of course, that Biden can do because, so much of what Trump was able to do, he did through executive order. He didn't get the cooperation of a Republican Congress to get certain legislation done that would have been very difficult to undo. Instead, the reason why he was able to do so much with executive orders is because Obama did so much with executive order. And so a lot of what Joe Biden can do, on day one, is repeal hundreds of executive orders that the 45th president signed. And, we could be in some ways back to the status quo, but the political status quo it did not survive the Trump era. People are not going to want to go back to what they had before. A lot of what people disliked about Trump was the tone. Well, okay, but the policies were sound, and there's ample evidence of ways people's lives have been improved, notwithstanding the pandemic this year. But prior to that, certainly there was lots and lots and lots of evidence, from low unemployment to all kinds of things, that Trump had been able to do. And so, people think that we're going to go back to some state of normality. No, and we don't want that pre-Trump normality. It was not good for the middle class. It was not good for middle America. And so, I was trying to say last night, and I want to, reiterate again tonight, there's a realignment underway, a political realignment underway. And I think if Republicans in Congress right now feel like, well, we're going to get rid of Trump and we can go back to the way it was, they're fooling themselves. They simply are fooling themselves.
Well, the Republicans in Congress, I said this last night, and I'll say it again, but because some of them are wonderful guys, I don't want to offend them. But Mr. Nixon told my sainted father that your basic Republican congressman is not fit to be dog catcher. Right. Let's prove him wrong. Let's have the Republicans in Congress get up on their hind legs and fight.
And Ben, I think that going back to what Lewis brought up before with how do you trust the media, there are so many Trumpicans or Trump supporters or Republicans right now that don't trust their own party.
Yeah.
We've been promised so much. Where is, like you said, where is Barr? Where's Durham? Where's all these reports? Where are all these investigations? How come we're the ones that are being always investigated? I brought up last night, for 4 years, President Trump has had a Democrat colonoscopy, Ben.
Half hour. Where have you been?
He's getting Diet Coke.
Is he getting Diet Coke? Ben,
I think so.
I'm sorry. Say it again. I'm talking to my nurse.
Because you have a bum knee. But for 4 years, Ben, the Republican, Donald Trump has basically had a Democrat colonoscopy.
Yes, your phrase, and it's a damn good one.
And all conservatives or all Trump supporters right now are like saying, so let's get this right. For 4.5 years, you spent probably hundreds of millions of dollars to try and bring this guy down. You can't for a moment, and this is to Republicans, say, let's do an investigation of an election that all of us can open our eyes and see has obvious fraud.
Right. This is incredible. I agree. This is incredible. I don't believe that if we had all the Republicans in the Senate and all the Republicans in the House and the president demanding an investigation, that even the people in the FBI who seem to not want to investigate any real crime would be able to ignore it. So, yes, get up there and fight. Please, 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 Mr. Republicans, please, 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 Mr. and Mrs. Republicans, make some effort to stand up on your hind legs.
Because if they don't, Ben, they just like, the Tea Party came in and primaried a lot of those people that were sitting there, and Eric Cantor lost his seat. I don't think they realize they stand to the Trump supporter. If you go against the Trump supporter, they're not like the past Republican supporters that are just going to go, it's okay. The Trump supporters will remember who did not defend their president.
I hope that's right, and I think it is right. Look, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I live in the absolute bleeding heart of Beverly Hills. I have a very, very tiny amount of property in West Hollywood. I go back and forth. It's incredible. I am seeing pickup trucks with giant Trump Pence flags, giant American flags, driving around Beverly Hills, driving around West Hollywood. Never seen anything like it. Trump roused something deep in the American spirit that no Republican has roused in my lifetime. Let's have a new birth of that, even if the Democrats do their absolute worst, even if they cheat like crazy. Let's take the spirit of Donald Trump and carry it with us into the future.
And on that note, Ben Boychuk, any closing thoughts?
I can't really do better than that. I just want
think
to.
Anybody could do anything better than that, Ben.
I just want to remind people, just please don't despair. Tomorrow's the beginning of a new week. The fight continues.
No, actually, Sunday is the beginning.
Well, yeah, you're right. Okay. I retract and wish to revise and extend my remarks. Monday is the beginning of a new business week. I'm sure there's going to be a hell of a lot being filed in court, and it's going to be a big fight. Please don't despair. Please keep your spirits up. Please don't give in until,
Well, don't ever give in. Don't ever give in. They don't ever. When I'm going to give you this closing anecdote. When the Nazis overran France in May and June of 1940, most of the French government fled. Some of it became collaborators with the Nazis. But Charles de Gaulle went to London and he gave a speech. And he didn't say we've lost. He said, my fellow countrymen, we face a protracted struggle. And that's true of us. We have not lost. We face a protracted struggle.
And on that note, that's all the time we have for this edition of The World According to Ben Stein. Thank you, Ben Boychuk of AM Greatness. Where can people find you, Ben?
You can find me on Parler at bboychuk3. That's BBOYCHUK 3. Follow me there. Follow American Greatness there. Check out American Greatness at www.amgreatness.com.
Louis Fine, where can people find you?
At John Anderson Campaign Headquarters. That's John Anderson for President, or L. Fine.
You cannot stop. Yes, that.
Ben, Tourette's is just like cancer.
The only thing I can think of is lobotomy. It's the only thing I can think of.
It didn't work with Rose Kennedy,
and
the daughter, not the wife. L. Fine, F-E-I-N.
And Remso, where can people find you?
Just at Remso, R-E-M-S-O on Parler. I know we've got a ton of new people. Questions. The best place right now is a webpage that we have set up answering everything, connecting you all the right ways. Company.parler.com. That's company.parler.com. Get connected.
And of course, let's thank America's humble servant, Ben Stein. We salute you. And remember to follow us at The World According to Ben Stein on YouTube. Also on Facebook. Please subscribe on YouTube. We love the subscribers. Follow us on Parler at Ben Stein. And I am Judah Friedman. We will see you soon, and we will see you next time. We salute you and thank you for listening.
Power to the people.